Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. What a game. Wow, where to even begin? Jets win 4-3 against the Carolina Hurricanes. It was an absolute bit of a shit show near the end there, but hey, we're here to break it down. We're going to talk about it. Obviously, we'll talk about possibly throwing the game to the wayside. We'll talk about Dave Riddick's almost shutout. We're going to talk about some unfamiliar faces from the bottom end of the lineup stepping up. But before we do all that, one quick little thing. Think you know what way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's World Cup, hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live and play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 90 plus, please play responsibly. Alrighty, so I forgot to say it in the first little bit, but you're joined here by myself, Brady, and I have with me a fantastic guest with me. We've got Nick Lynham of Top Line Media. On Top Line Media, they do a lot of different podcasts right now. They've got a new one going out for the World Cup, but other than that, they're doing podcasts regarding the Winnipeg market. I think they're doing most of the Canadian markets, right?
We're doing all of Western Canada, so we got a Battle of Alberta podcast where we talk about both the Oilers and the Flames, and then the Canucks as well.
Awesome, fantastic. Be sure to go check out Nick and his Top Line Media channel out. Well, Jets game. Where to even start? Boy, oh boy. Coming into this, Nick and I were saying, it should be nice and fun. Coming in, feeling good. It's always good to talk about the Jets when things are going well. And with 5 minutes left, boy, did they put that to the test. Nick, what did you see out there from the bit of the game being handed on a platter to the Carolina Hurricanes?
Well, yeah, I really liked the first 55 minutes there, and then all of a sudden that went from an easy bet over at Sports Interaction to a sweat for 5 minutes. Holy, honestly, I'd put a lot of that on the coaching staff though. Like we were kind of talking beforehand, the lines were really rolling today, and then they cut it back to just two lines, and those two lines just kept getting hemmed in. Couldn't get the puck out of the zone, and all of a sudden we have a tie game going in overtime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found it really interesting, the decision to both shorten the bench, but also even in the sense of, the top two lines were the only ones going out, but it was a modified second line,
Yes.
putting Adam Lowry up there instead of Cole Perfetti. Based on the game there, honestly, like Cole Perfetti's been rolling. Like that's one of the things that I would say is one of the biggest positives of this game I found. He, has been looking good the past few games, and he continued it with his performance tonight. It looks like he was shooting a lot, looked great on the power play, and even on that Dubois goal, like that all starts with him, playing defensively, using a good stick, and getting the puck away from whoever it was on the Hurricanes who had it, and feeding it over to Wheeler. How about this? I'm just gonna put since you're harping on Rick Bowness. What would you have done in that situation? Would you have, shortened the bench? Would you have kept all four lines rolling? What's your opinion on the deployment, especially in a tight game near the end where you're the Jets are kind of turtling a little bit?
Yeah. See, and that's one thing I actually talked about this week on our podcast is we hadn't really seen the Jets kind of go into a shell with the lead, and all of a sudden in that last 8 minutes or so, you kind of felt the tide kind of turning there. And I wasn't really big on the decision today to cut down the bench, especially we're going to get into the fourth line. I thought they were probably the best line or most consistent line on the night, and we didn't see them at all in the last 5, 6, 7 minutes. Some that Shifley and Connor line is great at generating offense, but D is always kind of a iffy area for them. And I don't know, I didn't love that decision tonight, just the way that game flow was rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Because, one of the things that, last game, it was kind of tough to put into words, what really went wrong for the Jets. But
Mhm.
one of the things I think was key was that they weren't really playing all four lines. And that's kind of one of the things that I found has been kind of a key of, Rick Bonus's system in, when things
Mhm.
are going well. The Jets are playing all four lines. They're rolling. They're getting contributions from each line. And in a game like this where, Mikey Asamont, Jansen Harkins,
Mhm.
and man, Dave Gustafson looks
The Gus
incredible.
bus, baby.
The Gus bus is rolling. He looks
Mhm.
great. And like that line was just every single time that they were on the ice, it felt like they were just taking the play towards the Hurricanes. And it
Mhm.
makes no sense. And I was, going into probably the last 10 minutes of the game, I was sitting there going, wow, like I'm really glad that the Jets are continuing to roll over all four lines. And then of course, the bench gets cut and you see pretty much the same guys rolling out there every single time. You know, you know, one of the things with Scheifele and Connor, as you said there, like they're great at generating offense, but when it comes to the defensive end of the ice, they're not always putting in their best effort. And when you cut
Mhm.
down the bench down to six guys, like those guys are going to get tired. They're going to start taking liberties. They're going to start hooking.
Mhm.
They're like, luckily, no calls were called against the Jets. I'm pretty sure there was a missed call within the past, in the last 5 minutes that the Jets benefited from, because reffing loves to to not make calls in the last 5 minutes when it's actually really impactful. But yeah, so I personally didn't love the fact that they cut down the lines, especially on a night where um the all four lines were rolling, and other than really the Lowry line, like every single line seemed pretty dominant. Like they were really taking
Mhm.
the play towards the Hurricanes.
Yeah, and it felt like that. It almost felt like all three of those felt like the same things were happening. Like the Jets were really struggling to get the puck over the blue line and get it out of their zone, and it just kind of became a clusterfuck back there. And you kind of kept sending the same six guys, the same two deep pairings, and the same things kept happening over 5 6 minutes, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
You almost cost yourself an extra point there.
Yeah, absolutely. And luckily they came out in the overtime, and Josh Morrissey ices the game. It was a big
Hmm.
celebration between the two of us, knowing that we would come in here and not have to harp on the Jets the entire game. Because honestly,
Yeah.
they played a pretty good game. Like
Hmm.
again, my only criticisms of the game would have been the Lowry line just didn't really look like they've had it, and especially in the
Yep.
past few games. Like I don't know what it is about that line. I would love to see, especially after the game that he had. Like I'd love to see Jansen Harkins maybe get boosted up to that third line just to and maybe move Saku Menelainen down.
Yep.
I've liked what Saku has brought to the lineup. However, I view him a lot more as a fourth liner just because he doesn't really have that finishing skill. He scored one goal with a tip in, but that's the type of goal that you get when you're in the bottom of the lineup, right?
Yep.
Um, One thing that we can touch on is Dave Riddick's game. Coming into the season, Jets fans weren't super hyped on him. But I guess this is what his fourth game of the season.
Yep.
And I think probably the first game that he played where it wasn't on a back to back. What did you see out there from Big Save Dave?
It's funny because I've been very vocal about how uncomfortable I am when Big Save Dave is in the net, and I was actually about to put out a little humble pie tweet saying it might be time to start writing that Big Save Dave apology letter. And then the last 5 minutes happened there, and I wouldn't put all of them on him, but that third one, that's just a shot you kind of to have, especially in that moment of the game. And I think my buddy Chase kind of summed it up best when in our a group chat I'm in, kind of saying, like I clench every time the puck's going towards Big Save Dave, and I very much feel the same way. It felt like today was kind of a statement from him, and it just all fell apart real quick.
I was getting ready to come in here and go Big Save Dave shutout. I
Yeah.
was so happy for the guy. And then as soon as that first goal went in, it was like a bit of pause came on me, and I was like, okay, they just got to lock it down. The second goal goes in, and it's almost the same thing as the first goal, just shots from the point as well as
And
you
a
know
tip, right?
and tip traffic in front.
Mhm.
Um, this is the other thing that I also felt like we should at least mention. Um, I I don't know if I can give my stamp of approval on the Pionk and Morrissey pairing. I like Josh Morrissey has had a great start to the season, and
Fantastic.
and I am not at all harping on him whatsoever. But it just seems that every time that that pairing is together, you know, all the big goals are on that pairing. Maybe it's because they're getting the tough minutes, for example. But I think that Schmidt and Dylan have also taken their fair share of the big minutes, and they don't
Mhm.
seem to get hemmed in all the time.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's a lack of being able to break the puck out, an in zone defense thing. Do you have a comment on Pionk and Morrissey and what you see from them? Or would you say that you're like that they're gonna figure it out, or would you
No.
say can it?
Okay, so that pairing is absolutely excellent in the offensive zone. They create a lot of good things for the Jets in the O zone, but then they do the complete opposite in the D zone. And I do put a lot of that on Neil Pionk. I do not see him as a top pairing right-handed caliber D-man that this team desperately needs him to be right now. Um, a lot of it comes from, in my opinion, him turning the puck over. He hasn't been great at moving it the other way, and he's just a very chaotic player, and it works for him in the O zone, but in the D zone when he's running around, it leaves guys wide open. You got the extra man out there in a 6-on-5, and you have a guy running around. It's it's bound to create some kind of chaos negatively against the Jets. That's not a pair I'd like to see kind of. It's not a pair I trust at all to be a top pairing on a team that wants to be a contender. As soon as Dylan DeMelo gets healthy, I'd be putting Dylan DeMelo right back up there with Josh Morrissey. We know it works. We know that the Schmidt and Dylan pairing has been pretty solid defensively. I'd be having Neil Pionk down there on that third pair.
I completely agree with you, and also just stylistically,
Mm-hmm.
I think that third pair could really thrive with him and Dylan Sandberg playing together because I mean this kind of is a bit of a transition to the third pair. We
Yep.
love to talk about our fifth and sixth defensemen.
Yep.
Um, I thought Dylan Sandberg, game in game out has really shown in the past few games that he is here and he's here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just comparing his games to, for example, Logan Stanley in the past, it just seems like there's an air of calmness that Dylan Sandberg
Yes.
brings to the back end, and a lot less of the chip outs. Like one of the most frustrating things, and it just gives me flashbacks to that Montreal series in the bubble where all
Mm-hmm.
the Jets could do to get out of their zone was flip the puck out and try to retrieve it. Whereas with guys like Dylan Sandberg in the back end, I feel so much more calm seeing those clean, crisp breakout passes coming,
Mm-hmm.
and that seems to be one of the bread and butters of his. Um, this game, Ville Heinola finally draws into the lineup.
Yep.
Nick, what was your take on his game today?
I thought there was a slow start to the game for Billy. Obviously, it's his first game in the lineup. You're going to expect some kind of, adjustment period. But I felt actually as he got kind of comfortable in that game, it was a nice, quiet game for Ville Heinola, especially from the second period on. He was making the breakout passes you'd expect. It was nothing flashy at either end. It wasn't overly impactful, but for a young D-man coming into that spot, it's his first game against a quality opponent. I think there was nothing wrong with a quiet performance out of Ville Heinola tonight.
I absolutely agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. I had the exact same feeling. Start of the game was a little rough, had a couple turnovers to start, but honestly, that just seemed like he was just kind of getting back in sync, getting back in rhythm. And of course, this is, a different team that he's been playing on all season. So of course he's got to get comfortable. Luckily, he was playing with Dylan Sandberg, where he has a bit of experience.
Yeah, I really like how those two read off each other too. Like as much as Ville Heinola was the right-handed D man, you saw a lot as that game got on and they got comfortable with each other. Them kind of switching positions and really using the full ice. I really liked how that kind of looked as it went on.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that like obviously even if he had a bad game, I think he warrants more than just a single game, obviously. Because you're
Hmm.
never really going to get an idea of how a guy plays. And even looking at Cal Capobianco last two games, like his first game, yeesh, not great. His second game, not too bad. And I think that that's just kind of, how it goes with players who have to sit out games, and then you got to bring them into the lineup, whenever you can. I'm gonna highlight a little comment from our chat here. Dave Smith, hot take: Villy does Pionk at a fifth of the cost. What's your take on that?
Hey, Dave, come listen to Top Line, because I've been on that train since our preseason. I could not agree more. If I'm looking at kind of maximizing the salary cap, maximizing the D talent, I think they're very comparable players. They both have concerns with their D zone. Their positives and their strengths in their game are in the O zone. And quite frankly, I think the ceiling is higher on a Ville Heinola in the power play situations that Neil Pionk's getting. So Dave Smith, I could not agree more with you.
I definitely agree as well. Yeah, he says he's already subbed. There we go.
I appreciate that, Dave. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and hey, I definitely agree there. I think that they bring the same flaws, and they both have they have a slight difference. I would say I feel a little more calm when Villy's breaking the puck out than Pionk is. I don't think that Pionk has a great handle on his his passing, but obviously Pionk has a bit more of a bomb to him, and can walk in and just take a clapper and OT and win it for you. But
for sure,
yeah, no, I think that Villy had a pretty good game, honestly. Like I thought that, again, start of it was a bit rough, but his game is, he's getting the edges off. He's getting the rust off. I can't talk today again. I can never talk. I don't know why they hired me for this. But yeah, no, that was fantastic. As we mentioned before, we got to talk a little bit about the fourth line. I know we casually, kind of brushed over it, but we got to give a shout out to our boy Mikey Esamont with his first career NHL goal. If we had the clapping sound, that would be really helpful, but I don't have it on my computer. What did you see? Because he's had a couple games now. Like, what's your take on the kind of the bottom end of the top of the forward lineup? You got guys like Jansen Harkins, Dominic Toninato, Mikey Esamont, all these guys fighting for spots. What have you seen from? Let's start with Mikey, and you can kind of go around and see. And if you got other comments to bring in, go ahead. But what have you seen from Mikey?
So yeah, Mikey Esamont's actually a player that really surprised me last year when I would go to Moose games. He brings a motor every shift. He works hard, and he did in the AHL have a bit of an offensive flash. So to see him kind of get rewarded with a call up and then get rewarded with a goal today, that was great. He's one of those stories that you can really get behind, of a guy that hasn't had it really the easy path to the NHL, and he's come up and he's kind of making the most of those opportunities. Obviously, I'm a big David Gustafsson fan. I can't believe I get excited over a fourth line center quite like I do David Gustafsson, but he's such a force out there in that role. He doesn't do anything excellent, but he does everything very well. He's like the first guy in the forecheck. Somehow he's the first guy in on the back check. He just creates so many opportunities for his line mates. And Harkins, he was a guy that had a rough training camp, a guy I didn't really see things from that really impressed me over the last year. But I think that the AHL stint kind of really put a spark under his ass a little bit. He went down there, he put up some offense, and he's looked a lot more effective beside Gustafsson and Esamont. It's been a group that's been surprisingly well. I know early on this season I was worried about the depth side of things when it comes to the Jets lineup, and that fourth line just continues to impress. For me, I wouldn't be given much opportunity to Dominic Toninato. I mean, he's a nice vet, 13th, 14th guy to have around. He really doesn't do anything for me. I'd kind of keep the guys in there that are there. But yeah, hats off to Mikey Esamont. That is awesome. Gets rewarded with a big goal tonight. And yeah, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from that fourth group. I do wonder about the third line a little bit, like you kind of mentioned before. Obviously, Adam Lowry's off to a great start, but I think that's where I'd argue both guys he's playing with are fourth line wingers. I know him and Janssen Fjallby have kind of had a spark lately. He's a nice forechecker. He does a lot of things well. But I think if the Jets were to look to improve that forward group, that third line really needs some kind of offensive punch to it.
I absolutely completely agree. All season I've been kind of saying the way that this Jets team becomes its playoff form is when they can get another winger into the top six that allows them to push Blake Wheeler down. Because and while I don't think that Blake Wheeler's having a bad start to the season or anything like that, he at the start of the season he looked great. Like he looked like a completely new player. But as of late, I've found he seems to be a little bit slowing down, and I kind of worry about him going down the stretch. As he does get a little bit older. Hopefully his motor can keep up. But I think that the secret sauce for the Jets right now is the ability to play all four lines, keep your guys all fresh, and it just doesn't seem like it. There just seems like exactly what you said. The third line needs a bit of a kick in the ass and needs a bit of a spark lit under them, and I think that providing them with a more offensive force would definitely help them. Because again, like of the Lowry's going to be stuck on that third line no matter what. But of the two guys on each side, like I've liked what Janssen Fjallby's brought to the table. He's got a good motor, but also I kind of worry that I'm seeing in him kind of I've got Brandon Tanev goggles on, and I'm just seeing a guy who's fast and gets to the puck quick. And I'm not sure if that's just empty calorie energy being spent, And Saku Maenalainen, again, is a guy who I am very glad to have on our team. He's a good PKer, but he's a fourth liner. Like he just doesn't seem to be a guy who can really chip in offensively. He can definitely get the puck in the zone. He can really put pressure on the opposing D and keep the pressure on, which is what you want your fourth line to do. You want them to keep the pace up, but he just doesn't seem to have that kind of offensive touch given to him. And then going back to the fourth line guys, like, man, you don't need to feel shame for the feelings you have for David Gustafsson. Like I'm right there with you. Since we drafted him, he just seemed exactly like the guy that the Jets needed, and just seemed like the next Lowry kind of thing. Like
I think there's even more offense to his game, actually.
I agree, and I'm starting to turn into a maybe he's the next Cop. Like maybe he's the next guy who pays his due in the bottom six forever, and then finally gets given a chance to play with some more offensive players, and then you see where that goes for him, and then he gets paid by another team, and we trade him for Brad Lambert.
That's an interesting. That's a very interesting comp. Comp.
But you can see it. You can see it because like what David Lowry bad mix up.
yeah. There's some trauma right there. Yeah. I don't want to be talking about Dave Lowry again. Come on, man.
What Dave Gustafsson brings to the table, man, he does not lose board battles. Like it's such a simple thing, and we all have a little bit of the caveman brain where we look at the little things and see guys winning board battles, and that's just like it sparks serotonin for him. But it's the little things that count, especially on the bottom end of the roster. And I would love to see David Gustafsson be given a couple shifts with some actual wingers. I would love to see him play a couple shifts with like Cole Perfetti or I would love to see him just bounce up, even just to give him one of those energy line shifts after the power play's been out there for 2 minutes and you're just trying to mix it up, because I don't know, like it just feels like there's a bit of a mismatch on the bottom six where again you've got your fourth line who's coming out every night and seems to be when they're playing a force like that. Again, going back to the Anaheim game, like was it the Anaheim? No, the Penguins game. Going back to the Penguins game, I think the bottom line, the fourth line played like 2 minutes of just like 5v5 play. Like I'm pretty sure they played nothing, and like that was very clearly an issue for the Jets. Maybe they were trying to come from behind, but again, like it doesn't make sense to be playing that third line, which mostly just feels like a time waster. Like they they're good defensively, but they aren't really scoring much unless it's Lowry shorthanded.
Well, my big thing there too is like if you are going to cut the minutes, that fourth line has been so effective this year, and there's only been one constant on that line. It's David Gustafsson. He started the year with Saku Maenalainen and Janssen Fjallby there once he got picked up, and those guys have kind of got promoted, and yet that fourth line hasn't faltered at all.
Mhm.
So if minutes are getting cut, I'd want to see maybe David Lowry bounce up to the wing on a Lowry line, and maybe those two kind of create some dirtier goals and create some more zone time and are a bit more effective at that side of the ice. Like he's definitely a guy I think that should warrant some kind of look, especially right now. You kind of mentioned that we're kind of looking for something in that group. I will go back to the Wheeler thing. I do think that Wheeler, Perfetti, PLD line has been probably their most consistent line.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if I'd be in a race to break that up right now. And without Ehlers, it kind of gets hard to see a real true top nine with this group. But I do wonder if you are going to go to a top nine heavy in a game, if David Gustafson beside Adam Lowry, and even if you keep Johnson Fialbi there, if that line kind of creates some dirty goals,
Yeah.
gets the net and kind of creates more than maybe a Sacramento line. And
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And even like looking back at, the bit of the collapse we had tonight,
mm,
um, why is Sam Gagner on the ice at the end of the game to like that's an offensive player. Like he is not
mm,
a defensive guy. And I get you want to put Scheifele and Connor out there, which again we already kind of talked about putting them out there. But I at least understand. You do have to give minutes to a bit of to your top guys in the end at the end of the game, especially when you're trying
yep.
to shut things down. But again, like even that's a spot where like bump Dave Gustafson up with those guys. Like I
Or
don't.
even yeah, I'll jump in here quick if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, go ahead,
Even
go ahead.
I know we saw it last game where Adam Lowry bumped up to that Scheifele Connor group. That kind of adds a defensive conscience there. It gives you a second center on the ice late in games, and then it keeps Perfetti, Wheeler, and PLD together. And PLD, I know he's still a young guy gaining trust with the coaching staff, but he continues, like we talked about earlier, continues to impress, especially in the D zone.
Mhm.
Where I think I might go the Adam Lowry for Sam Gagner route there if you are going to a six.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And again, we already kind of touched on the fact that we both kind of disagree with taking Perfetti out at the end of the game. That seems just kind of like taking the young guy out, even though he's
Mm-hmm.
been definitely more defensively conscious than Blake Wheeler has been on that line, at least I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely do agree with you. Like PLD is like the most complete centerman that the Jets have, I would say. I
Mm-hmm.
like he's the guy that at the end of the game, if you're telling me to put out Mark Scheifele or Dave Lowry or Jesus God, I gotta stop saying it. It's
Yeah,
because
you gotta start bringing him up, man.
it's because I'm calling him Dave Gustafson instead of David
Yeah.
Gustafson, and I think it just comes out. Anyways, if you're putting geez, I lost my train of thought now. Yeah, like if you're putting if you're asking me to put one of those two guys out, it's got to be PLD over Scheifele. And again, I just in general disagree with shortening your bench to 6 players only,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're trying to score, then that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Then absolutely keep it to your scores, which I found the Jets have kind of. It's weird. They shorten the bench when they're trying to hold a lead, but when they're trying to score a lot, it seems like they're still putting out the third line, even though they don't really do much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just glad to see the Jets won. It was a really tough game tonight. If they would have lost it, but the Jets have won the Paul Stastny Bowl, so
Yeah.
so that's good. Um, what else to even say here? What did you think of the special teams today? I'll let you have your pick of power play, PK, say whatever you want.
It's the tale of two specialty teams in Winnipeg. The penalty kill continues to do what it's doing. It's been a great unit over the last couple weeks, 2.5 weeks here. And then the power play, man, it is so hard to watch, especially
Yeah.
5-on-3. It's a 3-0 game. You score there, you probably put that game to bed right there in the middle of the second period. And it didn't even generate any quality looks on a 5-on-3. I really don't like going to an umbrella on a 5-on-3. It makes
Mhm.
it easier, in my opinion, to defend in a 3-man triangle. I'd much rather.
It makes it a lot easier to collapse and then just
Yes.
let them pass back and forth across and like no one like that's not a key like we're in it's 2022
Box
we
plus one.
yeah
Box
but
plus one.
like it just does not make sense to be running that just keep passing along the top of the umbrella and
Mhm.
never shoot the puck. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. No worries. No
But-
worries. You're excited here. It's all good.
But like, and that's the thing. Like, I even wrote this down because I was so appalled by the 5-on-3. So they had a minute 17 on the 5-on-3, and they had no like actual possession in the offensive zone until 35 seconds left. So almost so 45 seconds of that power play was them getting into the zone, slapping the puck, missing a pass, slapping the puck, missing a pass. Oh, Carolina gets it, dumps it out. Like, that is appalling. That is atrocious for a team that used to be, you know, top of the power play charts. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, there was probably more than 4 turnovers on a 5-on-3. What? Like, what are you doing?
It is hard to watch. It is hard to watch.
It's brutal.
And I didn't expect him to get any power play time in his first game here, but as that game goes on, and you know, you do have an asset on that bench that is his bread and butter as a prospect. I mean, especially when you're looking at a team that is struggling to get zone entries, a team that's struggling to make simple passes. What is Billy Heinola's one quality?
Yep. I mean, hey, I'm right there with you. There was a Garrett Hole tweet I saw today. I'm trying to find it here. It was something along the lines of like, here it is. Do I think Heinola deserves PP time on ice? No. Do I believe the Jets power play is meh to bad, so any change is worth a try? Absolutely. Like, I'm not surprised in this game, and I would hope.
No, for sure. I wasn't expecting it at all.
I would hope to see it next game happen, and I'm pretty sure the Jets haven't really had an actual practice since he's been called up. Like, I think they've had some pretty very optional morning skates, and obviously in those morning skates you're not having power play. You know, you're not working on your power play. So, you know, my hope here is that you know, he gets a little bit more opportunity there, because, you know, that's where he's going to succeed. Like, that's, if you're going to put him in the lineup and hope that he can do well, you have to give him the minutes that the minutes that will like work towards his strengths. But again, I'm not surprised. But the Jets do have a lot of games upcoming. I think they play like every second day for the next, I don't know how long. They've got a lot more games coming up, so we'll have a lot more game over streams coming to you guys. We're gonna wrap it up here shortly, unless Nick, do you have any other comments you want to say on the game? I'll hand the mic to you. Open buffet for you to go to town on. Anything to say, or that's pretty much it. Nothing? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, I don't think Nick can hear me. Uh-oh. Either way. At the end, anyways, we're wrapping it up here either way. So thank you all for joining us. Again, go check out Nick Lynham and Top Line Media. They are fantastic guys. And again, you know, give us a follow on Twitter. Follow me at NHL Chunky. Follow Nick at Nick Lynham, NIKLYNAM. Follow Top Line Media. Go check out their podcast. They've got one for the World Cup that they've been doing. So you gotta check that one out. But yeah, share the stream with your friends. You know, the chat is for everyone to join into. It's everyone's stream together. But either way, thank you guys all for watching. It was a fantastic game. Go Jets. We'll see you again in a couple days, I believe. They play, who is it? Who are they playing on Wednesday? They're playing the Wild. I think Liz will be tuning in for that one. But either way, thanks for tuning in, guys. Have yourselves a wonderful evening.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.